Here, we have an example paragraph from a report that incorporates two quotations. Within this paragraph, we have two sets of quotation marks, indicating that we have taken the blue portions from this paragraph word for word from the original. If we went to these original sources, we would find that the blue portion is directly copied. However, merely putting quotation marks around directly quoted material is not enough to cite the information properly. Our reader also needs to know where this information is taken from. In order to provide this information, we must include a parenthetical citation. For scholarly journal articles, books, and printed newspapers or magazines, there are two pieces of information that must be provided within the paragraph: the author and the page number from which the information comes. There are two ways that this information can be presented within a paragraph. In order to help us compare these ways, let's just examine the sentences that have quotations. Here, within the first sentence, we can see that the composer of the report has indicated the original author's name and the page number from which the quotation comes. Please note that after the author, there is no punctuation. We merely provide the page number. All of this information is provided within parentheses at the end of the sentence. If this source had two authors, we would include both authors' last names within the parenthetical citation, separated by the word "and", as shown here. If the source has three or more authors, we will include at the first author's name followed by et al., as is shown here. Et al. Merely means "and others" in Latin. Finally, it is important to note the location of the parenthetical citation. It comes after the closing quotes, but before the period. This positioning is very logical when one considers sentence structure. As this citation is not part of the original wording of the quote, we cannot put the quotation marks after the citation itself. Also, since the citation is part of the sentence, it must come before the period. Before we move on to the second way to incorporate a parenthetical citation, remember that one of the purposes of the parenthetical citation is to direct us to the appropriate source in our Works Cited page. If we examine the sources in our Works Cited page, which are in alphabetical order, we should find a source by Chobatar. This link between the in-text citation and the Works Cited page allows the reader to find the original source, go to page 8, and see if this quotation really exists. Let's now compare the parenthetical citation in this first example to our second example. Like the first sentence, our second sentence also presents the original author's name and the page number from which the quotation comes. Some of this information has changed its location and is no longer at the end of the sentence. The reason for this shift is that the second example uses the author's name directly within the sentence, whereas the first example does not mention the author until the parenthetical citation. When we mention the author's name directly within the sentence, our presentation of the parenthetical information changes. Since we have already given the author's name within the sentence, we only need to provide the page number from which the quotation comes within our parenthetical citation. As far as indicating multiple authors directly within the sentence, the same rules apply. In summary, regardless of whether we use the author's name directly within the sentence or save it for the parenthetical citation, we must provide this specific set of information, author name and page number, for any information that is coming from a scholarly journal article, book, or paginated newspaper or magazine. Let's now examine a paragraph that implements paraphrases. Here we have a paragraph that is implementing a paraphrase. We know this because of the incorporation of an in-text citation near the end of the paragraph. We also know that the information preceding this in-text citation is a paraphrase because no quotation marks are used. However, there is special consideration that needs to be taken when incorporating paraphrases within paragraphs. When incorporating quotations within paragraphs, it is easy to identify the information that is being cited. It is the information between the quotation marks. However, when incorporating a paraphrase into a paragraph, we do not have quotation marks to indicate where the information begins and ends. Within this paragraph, we know that this paraphrase ends at the parenthetical citation. However, we do not know how far back this citation is referencing. It could be referencing the previous sentence, the previous 2 sentences, or even the previous 3 sentences. Without an initial signal to the reader that indicates where the paraphrase begins, it is impossible to know how far back this citation goes. Therefore, when incorporating paraphrases within paragraphs, we must provide an initial signal to our reader that indicates where the paraphrase begins. The easiest way to do this is by including the author's name directly within the sentence. By including the author's name directly within the sentence where the paraphrase begins, the reader then knows that everything from Johnson to 92 is a paraphrase of Johnson's ideas. Along with changing the wording and sentence structure of the original when creating paraphrases, we must clearly indicate the beginning and ending of a paraphrase when we incorporate it within a paragraph.